Hey guys, Dr. Chris, Bench Chiropractic. We're back with another Fitness Friday. Today we're talking about that pain in your butt, okay? I get probably at least 4 or 5 times a week, somebody comes in and tells me that they think they've got piriformis syndrome or a problem with their piriformis muscle because it hurts in their butt when they stretch. And although that is a fairly common thing, we got to talk about that. Not every pain in your butt is the piriformis muscle, okay? Everybody loves to talk about the piriformis muscle, it seems like, but that is not usually what's causing the problem for people. There's some tests we can do in office to tell. I'm going to show you guys some ways to check out what's going on and see what causes you pain or issues, but we're going to find out what's actually going on with our glutes and figure out maybe what your problem is at home with some home tests today and get this figured out. So let's cut to learning what the heck the piriformis muscle actually is and what all muscles are actually in your backside. We're going to have some resources from Kathy Dooley and Dooley Noted down below in the links in the description. If you want a little bit more depth and detail into this, it's a quick, interesting video that she posted a while back online. So check that out for more information, but let's dive into it. Okay guys, so we've got the biggest muscles. Let's figure those out first. Okay, our glute max, this muscle is the biggest muscle in the body. It really has a lot of power. It can get very tight in a lot of people. We don't use it. It can get atrophied in other people that sit a lot for work. So this is that big piece of meat that should be hanging out right behind our backside. Then we got our glute medius. This guy helps us from tipping over sideways when we take stairs. Then we got glute minimus. These are all way bigger muscles than the piriformis muscle, okay? So we wanna make sure that we at least check those out first. A lot of times we see that one of these two muscles, occasionally this one too, needs our help a lot more than the piriformis muscle does. But let's dig down into that anatomy a little bit more. Where is the piriformis muscle actually? It's this little guy underneath. So we got that big glute maximus over here. We got glute medius, a little bit from here to here. We got glute minimus coming over the top of everything. And then we've got these rotator groups. The piriformis muscle is actually a hip rotator and stabilizer. Yeah, it can cross over the sciatic nerve and it can pinch in there. And some people even have the lucky anatomy of having their sciatic nerve go right through the middle of their piriformis muscle, which is why so many people like to talk about it. But not every pain in your butt is the piriformis muscle, to kind of steal from Dr. Dooley. We want to actually look at what's going on. We've got 8 hip rotator muscles, 4 internal rotators and 4 external rotators. And the piriformis muscle is an external rotator. So that means we will stretch it when we internally rotate, or if we're in a deep external rotation with our hip flexed way up. But look at how small that thing is. That oftentimes, if people are pushing up around the top of the hip crest or down into their hamstring, that's not usually going to be piriformis muscle. That's a very small piece of real estate that can help us tell whether something is or isn't piriformis. All right, so we're down on the floor. We're actually going to test that external rotation, see if maybe you do have a little bit of a piriformis issue. Most people can get down here without too much of a problem. Maybe we're a little tight, maybe our knee doesn't go all the way down to the floor. That's okay if it doesn't, but again, are we having any discomfort here? Are we having any issues with that? Does it feel like we can't get there? If we're really not having any discomfort from that, or it doesn't feel overly tight, piriformis again might not be your problem. But if it is, if it does feel very tight, if we have a hard time getting that leg down, let's talk about how we can at least get effective stretch. Lots of people try to push down in here. I'm just rocking and lifting my butt cheek up off that other side, okay? I'm really not getting any additional stretch here, even though I'm getting my leg down. I see people doing that a lot, or I see people arching over. If you're stretching your back here, you're really not stretching your hip. So some people have seen this pigeon stretch pose. Now I'm more flexible than the average person through my hips here, but I'm no gymnast. So this is not really comfortable for me. It's a little hard on my kneecaps. I'm having a hard time getting through. And even my tendency is to lean forward with my back, which will not really give us an effective stretch there. So if you feel like that is tight, maybe causing some discomfort for you, the modified pigeon stretch is actually a better variation of this exercise for most people. We can use a weight bench or a block like this. The edge of the bed can work fine. We can get up on here with our leg. We can actually much more comfortably now keep our hip down and straight. I don't need as much hip extension here, and I can keep my back up, and I can really sink into this stretch. and get a nice big external hip rotator stretch, kind of focusing on that piriformis muscle. I can bring my chest over and forward to get a much bigger glute stretch. I don't want to round my body. That's not going to help get you a better stretch. It's probably just going to overstretch other areas that aren't even your issue. So if you are feeling a righteous stretch in that glute right now, piriformis might be your issue. But there's also all of these other hip rotators that we actually have to deal with. I don't even want to list them all off because it just gets confusing, but I'm going to put a list of external hip rotators right here, okay? See all these guys? I'm going to put a list of internal hip rotators over here. All these together control your hip rotation, and frankly, isolating out one muscle and saying it's your problem when you have a whole group of muscles that's supposed to work at the same time really is counterproductive. It gets more confusing, and it isn't effective for most people to try to stretch one muscle at a time, because we're stretching all of the external rotators when we stretch into internal rotation, and we're stretching all of the internal rotators when we stretch into external rotation. So let's simplify this whole mess. Let's actually get this out of the way. Let's just do one stretch that will catch basically all of these muscles in a stretch, and as it's comfortable to stretch, let's turn it into a strengthening exercise like this. We call this the 90-90 hip drill, okay? It's because we want to put our feet out in front of us like this, wider than hip width apart, wherever you're comfortable, and you can either rest your hands back or you can support your back on the couch or a wall or something if you need to, okay? Cushion of some sort. We're going to go ahead and roll our hips sideways until they are approximately 90 degrees at the knee here and 90 degrees at the knee here. We're going to roll our hips through and actually rotate our torso as a team. We should almost look like we're running sideways here, okay? We're going to get a nice stretch into external rotation. This hip is in external rotation. This hip is in internal rotation. I'm getting both my hips worked at the same time, okay? Then we go to the other side without moving our feet any more than we need to. They should stay about those same footprints. And now I'm in 90 degrees this way and 90 degrees this way. And we just repeat that drill back and forth, okay? Don't pin yourself down and try to stretch like this. This is silly. We don't move in isolation like that. We move our body as a team. So we're going to just pull our arm out and across and actually squeeze those hip muscles. Drive your feet in a little bit, let them help. We want to make sure that we're careful of knee issues. We don't jam a knee into this position and then wonder why it hurts. We got to get our body to move as a team. See, if my hip and my knee and my ankle all agree, we're all going to rotate this way at the same time. They don't hurt. They actually work pretty good. If you still have pain doing that, or you're pushing through too much, definitely see your chiropractor, physical therapist, or get this stuff figured out and rule out some joint pathology. But for most of us, this is going to be tight or uncomfortable, but not actually painful. Once we've actually gotten flexible enough that we can get our knees down on the floor, okay? Some of us are going to be starting here for a couple weeks, just rolling back and forth. But as that gets easier and easier, you get your hips going all the way down to the floor, then we can actually work on strengthening these muscles, because better hip stability comes from those rotators being strong in all directions. We want to start lifting up our hips, okay? So we're going to roll back to the other side and lift up our hips. Keep going back and forth. Once that's gotten too easy for you, and it's really not a challenge to get up to that side plank position, we could start actually trying to stand up, or maybe I should say kind of kneel up in that fully upright position. Noticing how those hips feel. Now we're getting that externally rotated hip on one side with an extended hip, and we're learning to keep our body straight and neutral with it, okay? If that is too easy with the hands, now we can do look mom, no hands. We're working on good hip strength and mobility. We're just gonna test your core out a little bit too. And we wanna make sure that we can just do this gently and comfortably with no joint pain. Really, really progress through that gradually and slowly. Don't force yourself to do something that hurts at any point. But when we get our hips to open up, we'll start alleviating all kinds of issues. I just worked all of my hip rotators, both external and internal rotators, and I got them to work as a team with my core, my lower back, my knees, and my ankles all at the same time. And that is way more effective than doing some sort of isolated static stretch for long periods of time that might or might not be hitting the one muscle that you need worked on. So get your hips moving as a team. You'll be a lot happier and it'll help you move a lot better. Remember, we're always at Bench Chiropractic to help you move better, feel better, and be a better you. Give us a call.
Everybody's moving, everybody's moving, everybody's moving, 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 moving. Everybody's moving, everybody's moving, everybody's moving, 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 and stop.